Hi, and welcome everybody to this live stream where we share short updates of how the government has been captured by corporations and their billionaire agents, as well as the latest federal, but also many few state and local laws, proposed laws, executive decisions, and the latest Musk, aka Dutch actions. But most importantly, we also share solutions on how to stand up to the corporations and the billionaires wielding our political tools to their advantage and to our demise. So stay tuned as we dive into this week's updates on how the government is being captured by corporate constitutional rights. You will hear about how Trump recently pardoned a corporation. We also hear about the administration weaponizing the immigration system for the extradition of dissenting and vocal activists. And we'll hear how Trump's Department of Justice is letting businesses out the hook. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Alfonso Saldaña. I serve as one of Multiple national co-directors, and I currently reside in Brownsville, Texas, a town that is in the middle of a fight for its future. Elon Musk plan to turn Boca Chica Beach into Starbase isn't just about rockets. It's about who gets to control our communities and our natural resources. Musk wants his company, SpaceX, to have complete control over the beaches and surrounding areas, changing the rules and even deciding who gets access. But Brownsville is standing up. Just this past Tuesday, April 22nd, local activists organized a creative protest. A caravan of cars painted with messages defending our beaches and opposing the Star Racing Corporation drove directly to Boca Chica Beach, where early elections were underway. They were trying to send a clear message: our community belongs to the people, not billionaires. Yet, the threat goes beyond just Musk. Texas legislators are pushing bills like SB 2188 and SB 2230, which would hand control of public spaces to private corporations. SB 2188 could let SpaceX control access to public beaches, while SB 2230 could criminalize citizens for simply being in areas that company labeled as hazard zones. These laws don't just affect Texas. They set a dangerous example nationwide. If corporations can buy their own towns and beaches, what is stopping others from doing the same in your community? That is why it is critical to support the We the People Amendment, which would end corporate dominance in politics and return power to communities. Brownsville's fight is your fight too. Let's stand together against corporate rule because democracy means communities decide, not billionaires. And with that, I would like to pass it now to Greg.
Hey, Alfonso. Greetings all. Greg Coleridge here, co-director at Move to Amend. Maybe you recently have seen or heard that Donald Trump issued executive pardons to several executives of a company called BitMEX. It's a trading platform for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies for doing business without setting up an anti-money laundering program. The company was fined $100 million for that. And because of that, not just the individuals, executives of BitMEX was pardoned, but the company itself, for the first time, was a corporation ever pardoned by any president. Even though this was historic, it was predictable for a couple of reasons. First, well, it's consistent, is it not, with Trump's pro-corporate agenda. Since he's been in office, more than 100 investigations against companies have been dropped, withdrawn, or halted. But it's also consistent with the fact that he has received huge amounts of money from corporations, including companies that, like cryptocurrencies, that he has benefited from in running for president. So totally understandable there. But the second reason is more, I guess you could say, speculative, but quite plausible given Trump and his constant craving for attention and his tendency to avoid being outdone by rivals. As head of the executive branch, Trump may simply be trying to, I guess you could say, lead the corporate personhood movement, something that the judicial and legislative branches have been doing for decades, if not for more than a century. But if he tries to do that, he faces stiff competition from these other two branches. The judicial branch, namely the U.S. Supreme Court, has for more than a century reigned supreme in the idiocy of appointing corporate entities with constitutional rights. That includes the Fourth Amendment search and seizure rights, Fifth Amendment takings rights, 14th Amendment due process, equal protection rights, and First Amendment right to speak, which Citizens United decision expanded, but also the right not to speak, and religious rights, which the Hobby Lobby decision a number of years ago affirmed. That's an impressive display, is it not, of corporate rights over people's rights and the rights of community. The legislative branch, by contrast, namely Congress, has taken a different approach. Rather than going on the offensive in giving corporations constitutional rights, they have for decades been playing defense. That is, protecting corporations by failing to take substantive action to abolish corporate constitutional rights, like, for example, enacting the We the People Amendment, which Move to Amend has been pushing for the past almost 15 years. The executive branch, however, has largely been left out of the corporate personhood fandom. Now, some may claim that that simply is, pretty lame for the executive branch to just pardon a corporation compared to the offensive or defensive actions of the other two traditional and other executive branches. Now, some may claim that a simple executive pardon of a corporate criminal is pretty lame. Yet full and unconditional presidential pardons of corporate criminals as a means to uplift that a corporation as a person has a couple of built-in advantages over the other two branches. First, an executive pardon by Trump reinforces and deepens the corporate personhood narrative. Pardons are fast and potentially only limited by corporate acts, criminal acts. This compares to slow-moving Supreme Court cases. Secondly, corporate pardons are assertive, they're active, they're forwarding, they can be quite visible in public. This compares to the legislative branch that, again, is simply playing defense by protecting corporate entities from the majority of the public that believes that corporations or person is an absurdity. And lastly, corporate pardons are, as mentioned before, historic. The Supreme Court has been inventing corporate constitutional rights for more than a century. Congress has been sitting on their hands for a very long time, but pardons could propel the executive branch as, I guess you could say, the bigliest of all bigly advocates. And in doing so, of course, Trump can always use pardons as a way to raise money. So that's their playbook. But we have a different action plan and playbook. Ours, of course, is to focus exclusively on abolishing all corporate constitutional rights and money is free speech. And that's what the We the People Amendment is all about. And with your help and your ongoing support, we can make that happen. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Jenny Spanos, and I'll be bringing you this episode of the Corporate Coup Report from Move to Amend. So let's get this straight. Dr. Anderson, born in Pennsylvania, a U.S. citizen, highly educated, respected medical professional, gets an email from the federal immigration authorities telling her to leave the country immediately. Immigration lawyer Nicole Macaroni was also ordered to self-deport within a week, or the federal government will fine you. No due process, no explanation, just a cold, bureaucratic shove towards the exit. Self-deport. You can almost hear the smug automation in the email signature. Sincerely, the algorithm that replaced your Constitution. And while we're sending native-born citizens packing, 238 Venezuelan immigrants fleeing dictatorship and economic collapse, refugees by any definition rooted in decency, are being rounded up and deported to brutal El Salvadorian prisons. Now let that sink in. We're not just deporting human beings. We're forcibly disappearing them into state-sponsored torture facilities. Equal protection? Due process? These are quaint relics for the powerless. But if you're a corporation, oh, you're golden. It has rights. It has the right to use money, which in this upside down constitutional carnival is speech. You can influence elections, fund political hit jobs, and deregulate your own oversight, all while hoarding profits in offshore accounts. No one's asking them to self-deport. No one's throwing them in an El Salvadorian hellhole. No corporate persons are not only above the law, they own the law. In fact, they are increasingly owning U.S. prisons as well. The current administration is signing billion-dollar contracts with private prison operators. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement is attempting to increase its detention capacity by 100,000. Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons also told attendees at a 2025 Border Security Expo in Arizona this week that he wants the agency to become an efficient at deporting immigrants as e-commerce giant Amazon is at delivering packages. To quote Lyons, he said, "We need to get better at treating this like a business," in describing the ideal deportation process, like Prime, but with human beings. Let's call it what it is, a corporate coup. Human rights and citizenship are conditional, transactional, and disposable, but corporate rights are sacred. The government isn't governing anymore, it's facilitating a pipeline of suffering for profit, facilitating deportations not for safety or justice, but for political theater and privatized detention quotas. We live in a nation where a woman born in Pennsylvania is treated like an illegal alien, while ExxonMobil gets to write climate policy, where human beings are criminalized just for existing, as in the Grants Pass decision, while JP Morgan is too big to jail, where democracy is a facade, unless you're a billionaire or an LLC. This isn't broken policy. It's intentional architecture, and it's time to turn the tables and build a more just, equitable, and sustainable system. The kind of systemic change that the We the People Amendment can put us on the right path to create.
Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for taking the time to learn about the We the People Amendment and how we can restore power to the people. This is the ultimate solution to the corporate takeover of our democracy. Now it is up to us to take action. You can build support for the We the People Amendment in your community by simply just showing up and standing in solidarity at local events, protests, and actions, and make the connections whenever it's appropriate and adequate. You can also try to push for local resolutions in support of the We the People Amendment, or try to get endorsement from supportive candidates and organizations in your locality. And if you're able, please consider donating to keep this movement growing. Move to Amend is 100% grassroots funded and operated. So that means your support ensures we can continue the fight for change. And lastly, you can also help us by spreading the word. So please share this video, like it, comment, interact. All the interactions help us boost this in the algorithm. So please, we rely heavily on you to spread the word far and wide. We can totally make this happen. The future of our democracy depends on people like you and I just taking the lead. We all stand in solidarity. We can make things that seem impossible turn into the inevitable. So with that, onwards, and thank you for your commitment. Let's keep up the good fight.
Corporations are not evil, too. Money is not speech. Man, in fact, it's the root of all right now. We have the right to be free. Corporations are not evil, too. Money is not speech. Man, in fact, it's the root of all right now. Stand up and defend your democracy.
Have you recently read the Constitution? There seems to be some type of confusion. I thought it said the people were the institution and not the corporations that simply want to use them. The truth is Currently a fusion of corporate loot and our government that is outright abusive. People need change. The state, it refuses. They're saying we're mistaken. Well, show us where the proof is. They control the media, movies, and the music, and determine where supplies of the water and food live. We need a strategy. Here is a solution. Build a movement to give our rulers improvements. An infusion of human to counteract the hubris that has our ecosystem near useless and our youth pissed. The founding fathers were flawed, but they knew this. So they gave us the tools to move with. Let's use them.
Move. Corporations are not people. Too. Money is not speech. Man. In fact, it's the root of all right now. And it's time to take to these streets. Move. Corporations are not people. Too. Money is not speech. Man. In fact, it's the root of all right now. So get on out of your seat.